Hello everyone and welcome back to Old Mando's Park. My name is Crispy Chicken Mando and we have some things to talk about before we get started. The first thing being that I am calling this episode 2.5 because, well, I had some PC issues. I had to replace my RAM, which, as we all know, is a great time in this economy for that. But in trying to repair my PC and diagnose everything, I had to reinstall Windows, which erased everything from my hard drive, and my backup hard drive I used to install memtest to see if the RAM was actually the problem or not, and now I can't get any files off my backup hard drive. So thankfully Steam and Steam's cloud has my zoo saved, but all the footage and recording is lost. So this episode is just going to be a run through, a narration of what episodes 2 and 3 were supposed to be, which is a habitat build and then detailing out the entrance area and adding the parking situation. So I guess from here we will go out and take a look and see what we built in episode 2. And so here we are at our first habitat. This is Bighorn Sheep Mountain. As you can see here, I built up a nice mountain using the desert rocks as well as the red desert rocks, which I think, honestly, I used too much of the red. I'm not sure if I'll go back and change it out because everything was on random rotation all. So to try and duplicate the angles, etc., I'd probably just go back and rebuild the mountain, honestly, but for now, we're going to just live with our mistakes, I guess. But here you can see just the various details of the rocks and some of the basic foliage. Just your standard buffalo grass and blue stem grass of different colors. The green, the dried, the parched. You got to see one of the baby goats, or the baby sheep, do a Planet Zoo style Superman jump, and there's another one. Moving on around to the back side of the habitat, we can see a very basic shelter, just some walls, some glass panels as the ceiling to let some light in, but for the most part it's just your basic shelter with some bedding, some food, and a water spigot. As we swing around to the other side of the habitat, we can see the creosote bushes that I've added just to give a little bit diversity to that corner, plant-wise. This here is the Scots pine rubbing post, which is enrichment for the sheep, but also just adds a little bit of biodiversity without actually affecting their plant requirements because that's such a low requirement. Here is the animal barrier. It's just some basic concrete panels with some mesh and wooden beams. Nothing too fancy here, just something to keep the animals in their habitat. For the guest barriers, they are your basic Oceania driftwood posts and beams to make the fencing for the guest barriers. For the guest shelter, some of the larger Oceania driftwood pieces, some rope, and some thatch roofing, which I believe comes from the African pack, or at least the African Research Center. You can see some of the roofing underneath there to provide shelter for the guests to get away from the heat. There's also another habitat cooling area to keep the guests cool and energized and refreshed. As we zoom back out over the overall habitat, you can see I added some benches out there and detailed up some rock work, etc. around the outside of the habitat with some more rocks, grasses, the barrel cactus, more creosote bushes, more buffalo grass, Joshua tree, the manzanita bush. The flowers are the tickweed. We got some desert ironwood there. Just little areas around there doing more rock work. We got the goldenrod. Just trying to more or less stick to the North American desert and grassland themes. Just some more details around here, and then we'll swing up to what is now the staff area. I didn't detail the staff area. I figure that's one cut that I'll probably have to make in a franchise mode to keep the frame rates up with all the guests, is just do a basic staff shelter. But you can see some other grasses and leaves as I was able to branch out a little bit further with some plants as we get further away from the animals and not have to worry about their plant needs. Some more cactuses, rocks, different grasses, the periwinkle leaves. Just add a little bit of variety to kind of hide that building for the staff building. As we make our way over to the deck terrace seating area for the restaurant, you can kind of see some basic fencing, some posts, hung up some lights to give it some ambiance. This area right here, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I thought about making a little prairie dog, black-tailed prairie dog habitat, but for now I've put that on hold. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. Maybe just make a little vending machine, another bathroom area for the guests. In this franchise mode in the desert, it's all about taking care of their energy and temperature requirements. If they're too hot, they won't go visit anything else. So if you have any suggestions in the comments what should be there, then I would love to hear it. So as we head over to the staff area, this is not a new trick that I'm saying I discovered by any means, but for those of you that don't know, to get a little bit smaller font, you can just take an editable sign, such as the Australian sign, and you can insert your text there and then just sink the sign itself into the wall just enough so that only the lettering is showing. As I said before, when it comes to detailing the inside of the staff areas, I probably will skip that part for the franchise mode. Next, we're going to hop on over to the parking lot area of the zoo. This is a blueprint that I downloaded by Marvin off the Steam Workshop. I will put a link to that blueprint in the description of this video. Right now I'm just going to show you what the blueprint originally looked like. As you can see here, the original parking lot is for a much more temperate or even taiga biome with a bunch of grasses and trees and mulches. So once I originally placed that down, I deleted out all the trees, all the mulch, because I don't think mulch really goes in a desert biome. He had a bunch of leaves, that was the scattered leaves decals that were also on the ground that I had to delete those as well. I went back in and added some more desert flair to it, and then essentially once I had that down, I essentially copied my modified version of the blueprint and rotated it and flipped it around to give a double parking lot. So as we flip around from nighttime back into daytime, just continuing our parking lot walkthrough, I moved the guest spawners from their original position to the entry to the parking lot of what this would be the road or the walkway to the zoo itself. So there's two right there, and then there's two more over here. Those are the guest spawners. So as we actually start to make our way towards the official zoo entrance, you can see where I detailed it up, added some lighting, and that's where the actual ticket booths are. You can see the welcome sign, and it's just a simple design. Added some grunge there. And then as we flip around, as guests leave, we have a see you soon sign in hopes that the guests want to come back. Sorry about the abrupt jump right there. One of the younger males had matured and started fighting with the dominant male, and I didn't get there in time to record the fight itself, so all that was left was me making sure the vets took care of their job, and I just didn't feel like that needed to be recorded. Something you'd like to see in the future, how franchise zoos work, I guess, let me know and I will keep it in next time. But one of the things I did want to do between episodes 2 and 3 was to kind of go over the lore about what Old Mando Park is, who Old Mando was, and how did we get here today. So Old Mando was originally born as Jack Dowdy in the 1920s just outside of Los Angeles, California. He went to school at the University of Southern California to study structural engineering and to become a foundation inspector. He had moved out to Las Vegas thinking that he could be a foundation inspector during the casino boom to make lots of money. He eventually found out that not inspecting the buildings made him more money if he looked the other way. By the 1970s, Jack had retired from the business and built this as his home and his estate to leave for his family. In 1995, he had passed away and left this building and all his estate to his great-grandkids, Jacob and Madeline. They were both still children at the time, and the estate wouldn't legally be turned over to them until 2005 when both kids had turned 18. For the most part, this home had turned into a vacation home as the family had moved back to the Los Angeles area for the nicer weather and to be closer to the beach, but occasionally escape out to the desert when they just wanted to get away from it all. In 2015, both Jacob and Madeline realized what they wanted to do with this property. Jacob was a veterinarian and Madeline was a museum curator. That's when they realized that they wanted to turn this place into a zoo or an animal park. By 2019, they had all the zoning permits approved and were able to begin the renovations to turn this into an actual zoo. And in 2020, well, we all know what happened in 2020 with the pandemic, which turns out to be a good thing because it allowed them to slowly get this building and the zoo ready to open by 2021. When 2021 hit, they were able to open with the Gila monster and the Western Diamondback rattlesnake, as well as the bighorn sheep. They converted the kitchen into a full-on restaurant. They also converted the dining room into a seating area, as well as the outside patios. And the bedrooms became where the exhibits are and the information booths are, as well as the public restrooms. Here you can see the full kitchen with the lovely menu designed by Wiser, whose link will be in the description down below. So I know this episode was a bit shorter than the last, and hopefully it'll be shorter than the future episodes going forward. This isn't what I want this channel to be. It is just tours after I've done everything. So hopefully no more PC issues, no more hardware issues, and I will be able to do proper builds again next time and get back onto how I want this channel to be. But I will leave you with a tour as well as some cinematic shots to close out this episode, and I look forward to, I'll call that episode 3 next time around, and we will hopefully get back into proper buildings and a new habitat with another new animal. So I'll leave you guys with the tour and the cinematics, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you very much for visiting. My name is Crispy Chicken Mando, and I hope to see you guys next time.